Hey, got a lot of glam here, Roxy Music and more, and appreciate all the new followers on YouTube, hitting the like button and subscribe, etc. We're putting the stuff out on there first, and we're trying to get up to that first 100 followers, so that does definitely mean a lot. This Frampton Comes Alive is actually not from the 70s, it's 28. Remastered 2LP reissue, pretty nice. And Phoebe Snow, this is her at her rockingest on this record. And the Arrows, they've got the synth, they've got the pop, it's super 80s, and it's specially priced $6.98. We thought we would just carry it on with this copy. And Claudine, some great French vocal soft tempo, and she was also the secret weapon on CSB, ESO Radio, Lonesome Cowboy Dave, Chaz Smith, late Chaz Smith, etc. They'd play this late at night, I definitely do remember that. We do have a lot of exotica coming in, as well as jazz and fusion like this. Weather Report stuff from the Super 70s, and Steve Kujala, this is good contemporary jazz, contemporary is of the mid-80s, and Ketelin Karate, Hungarian femme fatale, she was a superstar, model, actress, everything, and then the war broke out, and she was a war hero, she saved children, did all kinds of wonderful stuff, but she was accused of being a spy, interrogated, captured, beaten, brutally beaten, all kinds of unspeakable things even happened after the war by the people who didn't like her, and she eventually faded into obscurity, but we do have a pretty rare signed copy of one of her records, which is excellent. It came from the Sarosi record shop in New York City, which towards the end of her life, she was actually selling hats there and living in obscurity. And she was also interesting. Celeste Zita, another Hungarian actress, famous superstar, and again in World War II, she had to fake her own suicide to escape, but escape she did. And Alex Udvari, he's actually from Cleveland, and he was a master of the cymbalom, which is a really hard instrument to play, but he does all kinds of great tracks on here, and he signs it to a connoisseur of gypsy music, which is pretty interesting. But it's a cool record, and it's also cool that it comes from Cleveland, and his mailing list, of course, was on West 44th. We got all kinds of other interesting stuff, including discotheque records. We have that section growing here. You can learn the dog, the monkey, the Hully Gully, and all kinds of other cool stuff they used to play in the nightclubs back then. And Michael Parks died about 5 years ago. He towed the line between country and folk in the rock world. Lost and Found is this record. And Donnybrook Fair, Celtic stuff is pretty scarce. They're from Albany, and they got a lot of good tracks if you're into that stuff. Madeline McNeil, her voice is incredible. This was, I believe, her second record, folk from '73. It's pretty scarce. It's also signed. It's beautiful. It's worth it just for her take on Rocky Mountain High alone. She was there from the Blue Ridge Mountains, and sadly she fell in, I believe, March 2020, right when the whole COVID thing was kicking out. So I know that there was some sadness about her funeral. No one could attend, etc., etc. But this is great stuff. I definitely recommend it. Angela Winbush, this has a super 80s sound to it. And Latour, I believe he's out there on Facebook somewhere, but he's doing Progressive House in 92 on this. And Frozen Ghost, note the accents on the O's there, and it really looks like it sounds super synthy rock from the early 80s. Alta Dustin, this is a pretty interesting record, one of the first to slide the sampler together, giving a fast motion phase-out effect that's never tiresome to hear spurting from speakers. There's also other good synth pop we just got in techno from '88. This was from the film Coming to America, a tie-in that the Cover Girls did. And Richard Mazda, I know out there somewhere on YouTube there's a segment of Jeffrey Valance from MTV talking about this record. It's kind of alty, synthy, super 80s, early 80s stuff. And OMD from '81. This is almost futuristic for the time. And Breathless, they're from Cleveland, and it's a record that really all Clevelanders ought to know. They're really up there with Michael Stanley and the Raspberries, the Outsiders, etc., etc. This is a masterpiece in the world of rock. It's pretty solid and great listening, and pretty up-tempo and good. Headpins from Vancouver, they towed the line between metal and hard rock. What's interesting and different about them is they had a female lead vocalist, and what I always thought on this cover, these two guys here look so much like Eddie and Alex Van Halen right there, even though they really didn't resemble them, I guess, all that much in real life, but it's pretty cool stuff. And the drummer from the Loverboys on there. And Brooke Valentine, this is the crunk stuff, Miami crunk from the early aughts. This really does capture the spirit of that time and season. Carla Bonoff on here, she's rocking some good guitar, and she's a singer-songwriter. Firefall, country rock from Colorado, pretty good stuff. Andy Leak, ex-Dexy Midnight Runners, and Michael McDonald, Running Scared, Sweet Freedom. That's such a classic, and it is kind of up there on the yacht scale, even though it's way after the time, but we do have lots and lots of yacht. including this has got it's a superstar lineup. People don't realize Larry Coryell's on the guitar, but also in terms of yacht ski, it's got Michael McDonald on here, Nicolette Larson, and late great Valerie Carter, Peter Allen Bi-Coastal, and actually a lot of the top super strong yacht rock records are stuff people have never heard of before, like Leslie Brothers, England Dan and John Ford Coley, and here they're really yachting out on that, and Exile. After this record, they put out some other big yacht rock records, and so did Ambrosia after this. This was 78, Life Beyond L.A., and it was a mega record when it came out, and there's some Starry Night contemplative ballads on here, and of course Al Jarreau's 1983 self-titled record, and Nicolette with A Lot of Love, so check all this out.